It all started when my mom met my dad, and they fell in love, and they had me. Hi.
Hybrid engine. Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting. No real punchline there anyway. But moving on, the hybrid engine is just as the name implies, a hybrid mix between the classic gasoline engine, also known as an ICES or internal combustion engine, but I'll just be calling it an IC for time's sake, and the hybrid engine's new younger brother, the electric engine, also known as the EV. Electric engines tend to be much more efficient in terms of energy transference, which is the process of turning their fuels into usable energy. In fact, EVs tend to be on average 85% efficient, whereas internal combustion engines tend to only be around 40. And while that might not sound important to you, it should. In being less efficient, IC users are required to acquire more fuel than EV users. And with modern gas prices the way they are, nobody wants to be doing that. However, the EV's benefits come at a hefty cost. The current industry standard price for EVs are around $10,000 higher than the average cost of all vehicles, including both EVs, ICs, and hybrids. This is where the main benefits of hybrids come in. But before we get into the meat and taters of the hybrid, we should first understand how each system functions. ICs work by injecting fuel, typically a grade of gasoline, into little chambers called cylinders. Then they light this fuel, which causes a miniature explosion inside the chamber, which pushes a rod, also known as a piston, up and down repeatedly. This system then rotates a belt, which is how the system gains transferable energy. Of course, combustion engines are more complicated than that, very elementary school breakdown, but I'm on a time limit here. EVs, or the electric engine, work through the use of large batteries to transfer electricity into components, which either rotate a similar belt as found in ICs, or in some cases, they just directly power the components, therein bypassing the need for a centralized belt. For those of us that don't know how batteries work, I'll give a short summary. Modern batteries are very complex, but they're built off of and similar to the original battery model, which is made of 4 components: copper, zinc, a form of either cloth or paper soaked in a chemical solution, and a wire for transference. When the zinc oxidizes with the cloth, it sends out electrons, which are sent through the wire and into the copper, where it reacts and causes something called reduction, which essentially restarts the whole process. The way we get energy from this is we take the electrons as they're passing through the wire, and then we use those electrons to power whatever we need, be it a light bulb or, in this case, an engine. Hybrids are again a mix between both EVs and highly efficient ICs, and take advantage of the fuel efficiency of the EV and the lower price tag of the IC. Many hybrids consist of a main IC engine, which is the primary source of energy. This engine is responsible for taking the brunt of the workload in harsher conditions, such as driving uphill or through any situation that requires more torque than the EV can allocate. In other words, it's the work mule. The EV is much smaller than a typical EV and handles lighter workloads, and it also deals with engine optimizations between both itself and the IC. For example, it would drive downhill because there's not much work involved, and it would also help out in less torque-intensive scenarios. In order to keep the EV charged, it has a secondary battery located within the vehicle. Commonly, this battery is separate from the primary car battery, but not in all cases. This battery recharges by consuming the energy produced by the IC, while the EV engine is the lead engine, or while the IC engine has excess energy. You might have noticed from that description it sounds more like it's just an IC engine that gets a little help every now and then from an EV. And to that extent, you'd be correct. All a hybrid engine is a really well optimized IC that gets some help from an EV every now and then. And it uses that to go just a little bit further into the optimization tree. But those optimizations, are they worth it? Yes. And no. While yes, they're significantly better as far as miles per gallon, for example, the new Honda Civic Hybrid bragging about its 35% greater fuel mileage when compared to its gasoline-only counterpart. But where the hybrid starts to lack is in power. With hybrids being tuned to be more efficient, they typically lose some of their strength, and many car connoisseurs, to say, that are used to the high speeds and acceleration of modern gasoline-powered cars, have noted that their hybrids just can't keep up with that. So if you're looking to go race for slips, then a hybrid should not be your choice. But if you're fine with the slower speeds and accelerations and don't have the budget for a more streamlined EV, like a Tesla, then a hybrid can be a great option.